Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Holiness Janandana Goswami Maharaj. And all glories to assembled Vaishnavi devotees. We thank you all devotees for being here today. It is the beginning of a new week. Today is Monday. But it is also the last text to the last chapter of the Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, whether it was coincidence or whatever, it is so blissful that we could have Maharaj to end the chapter and the canto with us today. So we humbly request all the devotees to kindly be very attentive because this is the last text of the last chapter of Canto 2. And by Guru Krishna's grace, tomorrow we move to a new chapter, a new canto, I should say, which will be Canto 3. So we thank you all for being here. And Maharaj, we thank you so much for visiting us every now and then and sharing your love and wisdom with us all. So without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen, and then Maharaj, you take it over from here. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gurvani Pracharini, Nirvasesha Sanyamati, Pastyatya Desatarini, Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gurvani Pracharini, Nirvasesha Sanyamati. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasana Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasana Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gauranga Nityananda Gauranga Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama. O Premanande Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Gonitai Ki Jai Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shri Radha Shamasundar Ki Jai Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai Kuntaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Go Premanandi Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastachari Shatari Panchakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Day Prolo. Just a second before we begin on the verse for today, I'm going to go back to the first verse of this canto, where we find that very invocation which we've just chanted, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's the first verse. It's an invocation to the second canto. You have the English translation, and there we have it. O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. It's a very simple invocation, which has a lot of meaning. My Lord. As Prabhupada said, everyone can say, we can't say anything else is mine, but we can say, my Lord. All-pervading, everywhere. We'll see in today's verse at the end of the purport, it's a very short purport in today's verse. Prabhupada, how he says that to see the hand of the Lord working everywhere, we see that this nature of Godhead, all-pervading, doesn't just, for most people, this refers to a energy. If you're really a little spiritually advanced, you'll understand it as the Brahman. In the material world, they'll say it's some kind of, spirit, some kind of cosmic energy of some kind, presence of something, whatever, absolute, some energy behind everything, whatever it is. But that's not. The devotees understand that aspect of Godhead. They understand that Brahman aspect also. That surely everything is spirit. The Lord is present as the super soul for those who are a little bit more advanced, a little bit on the platform of understanding God's presence, not just his energy. He's certainly present in that way also, in everything. And all-pervading has another meaning for a devotee. This is not so easy to pick up, although people talk about perhaps, the cosmic energy, the spiritual oneness of everything. But when it comes down to relationships, when it comes down to situations in this world, the devotee has a much deeper, a much more meaningful understanding of the all-pervading nature of Godhead. And this second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is so important because it gives us a very deep, very, very deep understanding of how everything is connected to God. There is no separate, in reality, although it appears like there is, but there's nothing separate from God. It's just a matter of our consciousness, how we see things. But actually, everything exists. Nothing. Krishna is in everything. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita, it's in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And the English of that verse is, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So seeing Krishna everywhere, what does it mean? To some people, that's a kind of they have some kind of imagination of trying to visualize Krishna, in the wall, in the car, and whatever it is. It was a nice thought, but that's not the, let's say, the practical understanding of that. For one who's self-realized, of course, it's like they're seeing Krishna in everything. Whatever they see reminds one of Krishna. We see in the Bhagavad Gita that much of the Bhagavad Gita is based on this principle of becoming conscious of Krishna. Seeing Krishna means being conscious of Krishna. It doesn't mean necessarily with these mundane eyes. We tend to think of seeing him with mundane eyes. It's not. It's an internal awareness, an internal consciousness of seeing Krishna in everything, or being aware of Krishna in everything. For example, whatever happens in our lives, and there's a lot that goes on around us in what we call our lives, we have a lot of experiences. Some of my most profound experiences in my life were in Africa, for instance. They remain with me to this very day, very strongly, and they had great effect on my life in many, many ways, my years in Africa. But aside from that, every single moment of our lives, sometimes things go well according to our conditioning. Sometimes they don't seem to go so well. But how does a devotee see Krishna's hand, as Prabhupada says in today's purport? Sees Krishna's hand working in everything. Krishna's hand is indeed working in everything, either directly or indirectly. For the karmi, it works through his, you could say, his material energy. Ultimately, the will of the Lord is behind everything, but his will is that the karmic reactions under the direction of the material energy, Maya Yakshena Prakriti Sute Sicharatram. This material energy is working under Krishna's direction. But it is Maya, the material energy, under the direction of Krishna, makes all arrangements for the living entities according to their karmas. They like it or don't like it. Karma comes and karma goes. And the will of the living entities, of course, that's taken into account also, but primarily the living entity is witnessing whatever situation we find ourselves in. It's due to our past activity, and how we relate to that particular situation determines our future. So this goes on ad infinitum in the material world. But for an aspiring devotee, the Lord takes personal hand. It's not exactly the same thing. The Lord is arranging various situations. They may be related, Prabhupada calls it token reaction. They may be related to our prarabdhas, our present, let's say, results of our past activities, our body, the mind which we've received, and so on, from the past, and because we are still, of course, conditioned in certain ways. We're not released from that conditioning, so certain effects are there also from our past tokens. But Krishna's particularly taking an interest in arranging situations. We may not see it like that. We may see, why is this happening to me? This is horrible. This is not fair, or whatever our minds may think. But actually, it's the Lord's hand working. Why? It's not so much a punishment. Sometimes it feels like a punishment or reward, but it's not. It's Krishna's arrangement to release us from this cosmic manifestation. The second canto is known as cosmic manifestation. It's a description. A large percentage is a description of how the cosmos came about and how the Lord is present within this cosmos. And it's full of questions and answers, explaining how this works, or how it begins, and how the Lord's presence is to be felt within this cosmos, even knowing that he is the source of everything. Even that itself is Krishna conscious. But to see Krishna's hand working in all the dualities of this world, we're faced with dualities all the time. I don't know which part of the world you're all in, but in many parts of the world there is some war going on, or some, disruptions going on in various ways. And it's sometimes hard for those who are not transcendental to see how this can always be related to the Lord. Some disaster is taking place. Something happens in their life which we were not hoping wasn't going to happen. How is God's hand working in this? I prayed to him and I've lost everything. Yeah. Well, This is, for the materialists, of course, this may be their reaction. But for a devotee, he sees that Krishna knows what is best for me. There's something in my perception, in my consciousness, in whatever it is, my conceptions of who I am and what the world is all about, which is not favorable, which is actually causing me suffering. So the Lord is acting in such a way to arrange situations to show us that sometimes. Yes, there's an element of fulfilling our independent desires, but ultimately the Lord's will is, and the devotee's will too, is to release us from this conditioning. So the Lord is in this way, he's pervading everything. He's all pervasive. He's everywhere. Krishna is the all-pervading, and he pervades in every way, not just in some kind of visual way, but in terms of making arrangements. His hand is there in everything. Not a blade of grass moves, but by the will of the Lord, they say quite commonly in the West. I don't know if that's common everywhere, but to understand that God's hand is behind everything. Whether you're karmically speaking, karma's controlled by the Lord, and or devotional speaking, is being guided to help release the devotee from the bondage of illusion, from the false identification, from our false ego. The Lord is acting in such a way to break, in one sense, to break our false ego, which is usually a bit bigger than we think it is. And it's not easy, having a tooth out is not always so pleasant. But we know that having the tooth pulled or filled or whatever, ultimately, not ultimately, but at least for the time being, releases one from the stress or the pain that one's experiencing. It may not immediately be felt, but it does after a while. That's the principle. Krishna wants to release us from the causes of our suffering, and if he's very kind, yasyaham managrinami, and so on, he takes away things which are obstacles. That also means in our mind we suffer when we think of material things when we shouldn't do, and then you get a reaction, and it's not exactly a reaction, although it seems like it is Krishna, giving us a little, you could say a little mental slap or a little physical slap to try to wake us up. Anyway, back to the point. That's one aspect of today's verse anyway. And it comes up in the meditation on the all-pervasive nature of the Lord, how we can see him in absolutely everything. Now we're getting don't know where we're getting the contents of the Gita on the screen all of a sudden. But it is interesting in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna explains this underlying understanding of his all-pervasiveness, not just from seeing him in taste of water or whatever it may be in the cosmos around us, but in terms of how a devotee reacts to duality, how he reacts to happiness and distress, how we react to all sorts of phenomena within this material world, persons in the modes of nature, how we react to those situations, how we see Krishna's presence or feel his presence in our activity, in our abilities, in the abilities of others. In this way, we no longer start to think, I am this, they are that. We see Krishna's hand working through, and we can understand everyone's a part and parcel of Krishna, and everyone is basically speaking, whatever one sees in their qualities is a reflection of the qualities of Krishna. This way we can slowly begin to understand the all-pervasive nature of the Supreme, not just the personality of Godhead, the Supreme, the origin, the fountainhead of all the expansions of Svanksavi, all the various Vishnu tattvas, everything, all the various expansions, all the energetic expansions, his own personal expansions, everything, how he's the source. And that is the essential feature of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the first canto, we hear the most essential verse in one sense, depending on how we look at it, what level we're on, but it's said to be the Paribhashya Sutra of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8 chunks of Kalampang. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the source of everything. Everything comes from Krishna. His form is transcendental, spiritual. Everything rests on him. Everything comes from him. And the Bhagavatam shows us this. So this second canto particularly shows us how this cosmos comes from Krishna and why, not just that it does, but why it comes. Why it comes. Even the methodology in the next canto, we hear more about the methodology of the creation. Today's verse is like a prelude or precomer, what do you call it? Preface to the next canto, which expands further on this principle. So the whole principle is based upon those great souls. As in the Bhagavad Gita, we see Arjuna, an eternal associate of the Lord, behaving like a conditioned soul, asking questions relevant to those who are conditioned in this world, to help us to hear the answer to our... We don't even have the intelligence or the will to ask the proper questions. But the devotees ask the proper questions to clear up all the doubts, all the darkness. This material world, we're like in the fog. We're like in the darkness of night. What can we see? It's very blurred. We can't see properly. Everything's like perverted. The pure devotees are seeing things purely. They're not seeing like we are. They're seeing things from a different platform, above the modes of nature, above the clouds. So they can see, and they're asking questions which are relevant to help guide us through this darkness of night, or this darkness of ignorance. Out, tamasi mam jyotirgama, out of the darkness into the light. So these questions and answers are the foundation of the growth or the development of practically all scriptures, but particularly the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. No ordinary person could develop such realized knowledge. The pure devotees, can you ask them a little quiet, please? Loud noises, excuse me, Prabhus. Loud. Ask Dayavati to speak a little loud, a little quieter, please. So, like this, we see Bhagavad Gita almost, well, maybe half the chapters start with Arjuna asking a question, a provoking or relevant question to Krishna. And then Krishna, in the second canto, you could say practically everything's summarized there in the second chapter, but it was not enough. So then Krishna, on the instigation of Arjuna's doubts, begins to explain further so that it becomes clear. We come out of the doubts, out of the darkness. The pure devotees take the position of a doubtful soul, and then Krishna removes these demoniacal doubts are likened to demons. He removes the demons from our hearts. This darkness, this feeling of independence from Krishna, of seeing this world for my pleasure. These are demonic mentalities. We don't necessarily see it like that, but they are. Identifying with the material body as a self is a demonic mentality. People don't see it like that at all. Practically speaking, they see activity within that. But that's the actual root problem, is that we're forgetting everything's relationship with Krishna. We're seeing things related to ourselves, to our community, to our religion, to our country, to our gender, to our political party, whatever it is. This is illusion. This is ignorance. It's demoniac mentality in one sense. It may be tinged with some other mode of nature, but it's basically godless. Even when we're so selfish, at this beginning, you could say, of the path, we think, we're the only, everyone else is wrong, and I'm the only, we get into this whole thing in the name of whatever it is. It's very self-centered. So the Bhagavatam is to take us out of this, release us, free us. Bhagavad Gita begins with this subject matter. Bhagavatam takes us to that realm of freedom, that realm of light, if you want to call it that, not the Brahman only, but the realm of reality where our eternal nature becomes realized, becomes manifested. There's no question there of doubt whatsoever. So we'll just carry on. So offering respectful obeisances unto you. This is a primary aspect of the Bhagavatam. Again and again, when anyone asks a question, they don't just snap back. You need to see this in all the various writings of our acharyas, whether it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, take for instance, in Jaiva Dharma or in Chaitanya Shamrita or any of these texts. They first offer all their respects, nectar of devotion. We see in the beginning how this Mangalacharanam, before we start Om Namo Bhagavate, is a form of invocation and Mangalacharana, offering auspicious prayers and evoking blessings, establishing the objective of your subject matter, appealing for the blessings of the hearers, and so on and so forth, is essential. And this is humility. This is the humility of the Lord. We simply follow in their footsteps. We have no such qualification, but we follow in that footsteps of offering our appeals to those self-realized souls, those forms of the Lord, etc., to bless us that we may represent them in delivering their message, the message of Bhagavatam. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Shva Padantikam. We'll leave it there. There are many other prayers. It's always important to remember our position, our relationship with Krishna, and that we're completely dependent upon the mercy of Guru and Gauranga and the Vaishnavas. Keeping that in mind, we'll proceed with a little discussion on the subject matter of today's verse. So you can put today's verse on the screen if you can, Sahade Prabhu. As we're at a long distance from each other and repetition is not always an easy thing, I'll read it through the verse, and you can read. Let's see how we'll do this. I'll read one line at a time, but then no, I don't know how it works. Anyway, we'll try. Sutu Vacha, and you repeat maybe, Sutu Vacha. Ragya Parikshita Prishto, Ragya
Parikshita Krishna
Prishto, Yad Avochan Mahamunihi,
Yad Avochan Mahamunihi
Tadvo Vidasye Shrunuta,
Tadva Vidashe Shrenuta
Ragya Prashnanusarataha,
Raja Prashna No Sharataha.
and then we'll go on to the synonyms. Synonyms. Oh, they're not coming. Well, I'll go to my book. Oh, here they come. Here they come. Modern text. Srila Prabhupada went to great endeavor to put the word-for-word synonyms. If you want to learn verses and go deeper into the meaning, it's a good idea to go through the synonyms and not just the verse itself in Sanskrit and the translation, but the synonyms also. Prabhupada would many times spend, the class would be speaking on one particular word from the word for word, basically. Like if you take this verse, Sutta Uvasha, Sutta Goswami replied, Ragya by the king, Parikshita by Parikshit, Prishtaha as asked, Yat what, Avochat, advocate, that's interesting, spoke, Mahamuni, the great sage, Tat, that very thing, Vaha unto you, Abhidashe, I shall explain, Shrinuta, please hear. Ragiha, king. Prashna, question. Anusarataha, in accordance with. So he might go into one word in this verse, for instance, Shrinuta, please hear. This word Shrinvatam, hearing, regularly comes up, or Shrin, different derivatives of the same word, but this word to hear, Shri, I can't think off the top of my head, but it comes up in different ways in many, many places, even in names of cities. There are cities in the world, I believe, which have names based on this word. And another word here, prishtaha, asking, inquiring, hearing and inquiring. These two words are probably, in this particular verse, every word is important, but prashna is another important word, question, prashna. And words which have deep meaning, which come up again and again. In this verse, they're essential words. We read the translation. Sutta Goswami, Sri Sutta Goswami explained, I shall now explain to you the very subjects. It could be, it should be, we'll not say it should be, but it could be, Sutta Goswami replied, I shall now explain to you the very subjects explained. In other words, there's too much, what they call it, repetition of words there. The very subjects explained by the great sage in answer to King Parikshit's inquiries. I shall now explain to you, that means to Parikshit, the very subjects explained by the great sage, as Sutta Goswami is saying to the sages of Naimisharanya. I shall explain to you now the very subjects which were explained by Sukadev Goswami in answer to King Parikshit's inquiries. That makes sense? Sutta Goswami is talking to the sages of Naimisharanya, and he's now going to explain to those sages the very subjects which were explained by Sukadev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj's inquiries. Please hear them attentively. So there's another very important word there. And the word for word is probably there as well. But to hear, it says here just please hear. But here Prabhupada has put attentively. Hearing means attentive in reality. It's not just a matter of just casual hearing something, but it really means to digest what you hear and to apply it. So the purport, it's a short purport by Srila Prabhupada. Any question that is put forward may be answered by quoting the authority. And that satisfies the saner section. Notice Prabhupada says the saner section. Most people are not very sane. They're intoxicated by pride. And they don't listen. They don't like to hear from authority. They may not even, nowadays particularly, people don't accept authority very well. They challenge very easily. Although they have no, you could say, platform to challenge from, they're not in a position to challenge. They're just rejecting authority, basically. This kind of like independent mentality. That is the system even in law court. You go to the law court, you can't challenge the law. You may interpret the law, you may present different aspects of the law, but you can't challenge the law. The best lawyer gives evidence from the past judgment of the court without taking much trouble to establish his case. It automatically has been dealt with. The subject's already been churned, it's already been dealt with, and the case is already quite clear. This is called the parampara system. In other words, knowledge of God is not something which is a concoction of mankind. It's not a figment of the imagination. It's not a scientific discovery. It's not a philosophical speculation or a guess. It's already there. If you take a simple example, probably, wherever you are, nearby you is a mobile phone. I have one in my hand now. I didn't have it before. I'm holding a mobile. You can't see it, but I'm holding a mobile. You have probably got one with you too. And I have no idea how this works. I mean, when I say no idea how it works, I mean how it really works. I've got only a little bit idea how to use it. And that is very shallow also. Not my cup of tea, as they say in England, but to some degree I know how to use it. But I have no idea how it works. Will I ever find out? Probably not. I don't even want to know. Not interested. It does what it does, and that's enough for me. But somebody knows how it works. Somebody has manufactured it. It hasn't just suddenly appeared on the table in front of me. Somebody worked very hard. They manufacture it, and they've also given probably directions how others can make it. And they've certainly given directions how you can use it. We don't have to work that out. The authority, the creator, tells us how to do it. They tell us how it's done, if you really want to find out, which I don't. But if you do, you can probably find out, maybe. And they can certainly tell you how to use it. So like that, we listen, we hear from authority. You generally don't challenge the guidebook when you buy a mobile phone. Hey, I don't agree with it. I don't agree if you press that button. I want to press that button. We normally accept it. That's one example, you could say, of acceptance of authority. And the same thing is in the material creation, which is a little bit more advanced than a mobile phone, a little bit more complex, a little bit greater than a mobile phone. It's got certain aspects which mobiles do not have. And I've never seen two mobiles come together and produce a baby mobile, for instance. I don't think such a thing has happened yet. But that's going on at every flash of a second in front of our eyes, practically. Billions and billions of living entities are taking birth at every moment on this planet, or to speak of the universe. So this is quite incredible, quite incredible. So we'll never understand the whole thing. Of course we aren't. We don't have the brain to understand how a mobile phone works. What to speak of the universe is incredible. That's the difference. That's the limit. But we dare challenge authority. We're so puffed up, so proud. But the Vedic system is that knowledge is understood to be given. Along with the mobile, there's knowledge, at least how to utilize it, if not knowing how to make it. We don't have the brain to understand that. It'd be way beyond most people's capacity. But at least information is there, how to utilize it, and a little bit of information, how it comes about, as we find in the Bhagavatam. We don't find very much given elsewhere in other simplistic scriptures, but some indication. In the beginning was the Word, and creation took place, and la la la, which isn't wrong, but it's just not very developed. That's all, because we're too much for our puppy brains, as Prabhupada would call them. But the Bhagavatam does give quite an extensive description for those who are on the path of devotional service, because devotees love to hear it. Even if we can't digest it fully or put it together, it's quite difficult to remember all these things. But at least it churns the joy of understanding how great Krishna is and how wonderful everything is related to him. Everything comes from him. We don't feel alone. Don't think that anything is going on by chance, by an influence of some other opposite party. It's not. Everything is orchestrated by Godhead, or his expansions, you could say. But he's in everything. We can feel his presence in happiness and distress, in success and failure, in everything we do or don't do. He's present in everything. He's everywhere. We're never alone. So this type of information helps to remove doubts. It helps to evoke faith if it's heard in the right way from the right source. There is a process of hearing. There is a process. We just finished this nice purport. So they don't have to manufacture rubbish, Prabhupada says. We hear from the parampara, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo vidahu. This knowledge comes down, unbroken. When it's broken, Krishna again reestablishes that chain or that line of authoritative dissemination of knowledge. Otherwise, we can speculate for eternity. We'll never get out of this ignorance, this illusion. It's impossible. It's only by the will of the Lord that we can be released from this darkness of ignorance. On the pure devotees who come on behalf of the Lord and point the way towards the light, point the way towards deliverance from this darkness of ignorance. And if we satisfy them, then Krishna releases us from this material darkness. The whole Bhagavatam is based on this from beginning to end. This coming to you could say, the cynosure of the ayo, the creme de la creme of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, etc., and the contents therein. But it starts off, basically speaking, with inquisitive, it is literally inquisitiveness, of the sages of Naimisharanya, who are eager. That's another essential characteristic of receiving actual knowledge, is to be eager to hear it. And you can lap it up. This lolium, this loba, this greed, to hear. So the sages were very eager, very, very eager. They were, and that initially they weren't necessarily getting the answers to their eager desire to see what is the solution for this age of Kali, for people in Kali Yuga, which is about to begin or is beginning. What is the solution? And then, by the grace of the Almighty, Sutta Goswami appeared in their midst, because he was already destined to do so. He had been, and we'll hear that in a few minutes, but let's just finish this little purport. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchitananda Vigraha, Anadir Adi Govinda, Sarvakarna Karnam. There it comes, 1, 2, 3, and there you've got it. And there is the last line, let us all obey the Supreme Lord. Well, that's a pretty, you can say, sutric statement. In 5, 6 words, Krishna Prabhupada is saying, let us all obey the Supreme Lord. Simple as that. Whose hand is in everything without exception. There's not a single atom that is independent of you could say, the ultimately of the Lord's arrangement. Everything is perfectly arranged. Om Purnamadak Purnamidam Purnak Purnamadachite. Verse from Ishopanishad. Everything is perfectly arranged by the Supreme Personality of God. He is the complete whole. To understand everything's wholesome nature, and that word is quite common nowadays, wholesome nature, but there's not awareness of what that really means is not there. One thinks in terms of our environment, which we're in now, but this environment we're in now, as much as you try to make it nice, is not nice. It is not natural. It is not our normal habitat. It is a dreamlike reflection, which is not even awaking Satchidananda, bliss, eternity, and knowledge, even on the moment, what to speak of long term. This is not where we belong. This is unnatural, an asat, unnatural situation which we're in. We try very much to make it wholesome, but without Krishna, it is not wholesome. It's a whole, but it's not wholesome. Wholesome means when Krishna is in the center of everything. So Bhagavatam questions and answers are to help understand how Krishna is everything. He's in the center of everything. It's mystifying because it appears that although he's everything, he's in everything, but everything's not in him. In other words, we don't see it like that. He gives this illusory Maya, which is Maya, an expansive energy, which covers the living entity's remembrance of how everything is related to Krishna. And so that aspect, you could say, is not, in one sense, there's a spiritual equivalent, but it's not within Krishna in one sense. It's our own perspective, our own perception. That's our little free will, you could say, of seeing things separately from Krishna. So he allows that. You can see, Maya covers us, we forget who we are. We forget everything coming from Krishna. We think we're in the center, we're like little gods, and he allows that to go on. Just like a parent may sometimes let the child play around with some toys, which the parent provided in the first place. The child thinks it's mine, and it's this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. this illusion. But that's there for the conditioned souls. The devotees are supposed to be, by hearing, attentively hearing, coming out of this falsity of perception and starting to see things in relation with Krishna. Then life becomes wholesome. Then the whole world, no matter what it is. Prabhupada said one time, he was asked, what is Vaikuntha like? Prabhupada said, this is Vaikuntha. You just can't see it. This is Vaikuntha. Pure devotee is seeing Krishna's presence in everything. Therefore, it becomes Vaikuntha. There is no more causes of distress. There's no more illusion. And so Bhagavatam particularly, again and again, various ways, the pure devotees take particular roles, ask questions to get the right, evoke the answers. And we see as conversations, as Prabhupada saying in the purport in law court, they quote previous evidences. So we'll see now Sutta Goswami and consequently Sukadeva Goswami will be quoting what they heard from previous conversations with Vidura and Maitreya, or with other great persons, Brahma in the second canto, particularly in this canto, Lord Brahma and Krishna himself, Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. So many conversations. You could almost every chapter there is some kind of question and answer going on to clear up doubts or to incite the speaker to speak more nectar about the relationship with Krishna or Krishna's qualities, Krishna's name, form, pastimes, etc. But in the beginning, particularly to clear up the doubts which are covering our consciousness, because as long as we have these, we cannot appreciate the name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord. The doubts, the demons have to be removed first from our consciousness. It can go on simultaneously. The process of killing the demons is also to hear the glories from the right source. But there will be an element, if you could say, of mixture there. An element of doubt will still be there. So both, you can't jump to the goal. You have to go through the process as well. The practice of Vaidhi Bhakti has to be. That's why in the second canto we see when the description is there, given by Shukadeva Goswami, of the various stages of self-realization, even cosmic realization, universal form, Paramatma realization. All these things are described step by step by step by step. And like that. So we're now going to go to something which I got nothing to offer really of any value, but at least we can hear from the pure devotees who do have something of great value to offer us. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. I'm going to go now to the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is in the first chapter of the first canto. And with a little time we have, we're going to I've just put a few verses there. We could put many. So these are just a few. This is text number 13. But up to you. If you want to put it up, you can. And this is, the sages are inquiring from Sutta Goswami. They've accepted him as their authority, and they're putting questions or appeals towards him. And this is one statement which they made. O Sutta Goswami, we are eager, same thing, eager, to learn about the personality of Godhead and his incarnation. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters. They're called acharyas, those who teach by example. Now, they would teach according to time and circumstance. Srila Prabhupada has put these Vedic truths in a way which is relevant, digestible to the sincere souls in this age of Kali who want spiritual life. By hearing those teachings, one is uplifted. One is uplifted by speaking them and by hearing them. This uplifts our consciousness. They don't mean physical upliftment, so to speak. We're not levitators. This means bringing up our consciousness, our spirit. Are you okay there? Are you becoming uplifted or are you becoming down? I hope you're becoming uplifted. Purport, the little purport by Srila Prabhupada, short one. The conditions for hearing the transcendental message of the absolute truth are set forth herein. If we want to hear the message of the transcendental absolute truth, then the first condition is the audience must be very sincere and eager to hear. Two things. Sincere means that we're not trying to interpret the text. We're not trying to place our material conceptions between ourselves and what we're hearing. In other words, you're trying to hear attentively, very attentively, and you're eager to hear it. So these two things are there. And the speaker must be in the line of disciplic succession. He's not some kind of professional speaker or an upstart, a speculator, but he must have heard in the same way in a disciplic succession from a bona fide teacher, from the recognized acharya. The transcendental message of the Absolute is not understandable by those who are materially absorbed. I'm only going to speak that much on that verse. Now, we're going to go forward now. This is, I don't know where it is. I can't tell you. It's not from the Bhagavatam. But this is a little description here of this section of the Bhagavatam. The sages asked, they asked 6 questions primarily. They're worded over the, you could say over the various statements which they made, but there are 6 basic questions which they placed before Sutta Goswami. You may not be able to find this to put on the screen because it's not from the Bhagavatam. It's from, and I'm sorry, I don't even have the reference, but it's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita somewhere. Now that Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us by whom religious principles are presently protected. Now that's one of their questions. Tell us, we want to know, how are religious principles protected? Krishna himself, Bhagavad Gita, religious principles were broken, the chain was broken, now I'm teaching you again. So they want to know, what is it in Kali Yuga? How is this going to be presented? The Krishna's gone. So this is one aspect. How will they be, religious principles will be in this Kali Yuga protected? So Prabhupada writes, this verse was a question raised by the sages, headed by Shonaka. This question put before the great devotee Sutta Goswami is the foremost. It's the foremost of all 6 questions raised. We'll just run through those 6 questions because Bhagavatam is full of questions and answers. But this is the beginning of the Bhagavatam, so it's super relevant. What is the ultimate good for all people? That's their first one. What is the essence of religious scriptures by which the actual self becomes satisfied? Which is, of course, related to today's verse. There's also another one related to it. Why did the Lord take birth from Devaki? What acts did he perform? Who are his avatars? And where has Dharma or religion gone now that Krishna has left the earth, which is exactly the verse which we read just now. Where has Dharma gone now that Krishna has left the earth? There's no human society without Dharma. We have Varnashram Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, Sankirtan Dharma. A constitution is all to bring us to our constitution. There's no point in life. There's no point in Varnashram either unless it brings us to Krishna. Dharma Svedista Pungsang Vishvasena Kadasana Padiyadidivading Shrameva Kevalam. It's a waste of time unless it pleases Krishna or brings us to the point of devotion to Krishna. That's the purpose of Dharma. That's why Krishna comes in this world, to remind us of him, so we become conscious of our relationship with him. That's why he comes. He doesn't come to have a bit of fun, or for us to have a bit of fun in this world. He comes so that we can get out of this world. And that's why he speaks, Shastras. He comes to it, of course, to please his devotees too. And in some cases to taste nectar, which he can't taste in the form of Krishna. But generally, the idea is he's coming for the welfare of the people of the universe. He has no business in this world. So now we're going to go forward, and you can put these on the screen, but they're going to have to move a little fast because I said earlier I've selected specific verses. It's not a series of verses much. So you can do as you like. You may be on the next one before you've got the previous one. But this is the first canto, chapter 2, text number 5. After all these amazing questions of the sages of Naimisharanya, Sonak Rishi, asking these questions on behalf of the sages, Sutta Goswami then replies to him. First of all, he offers his obeisances, his appeal to his authorities so that he can represent previous authorities and answer the sages nicely. But then we come to text number 5, famous verse. Muno Saraprishthaham Bhavabhir Lokamangam. Yat Pita Krishna Samprashno Yanatma Supasi. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. The whole world's welfare, not just some people's welfare, the whole world. Because they relate to Krishna. Everything's related to Krishna ultimately, but people don't know it. Your questions are to try to help us to understand how everything's related to Krishna. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. You want to be completely satisfied? Then we have to hear the answers to these questions. The questions themselves actually are very satisfying. We'll hear that in a minute. But we're going to bounce forward because the second chapter of the first canto basically answers, in a nutshell, the second and third chapters, in a nutshell, answer pretty much all the questions of the sages. And the rest of the Bhagavatam is an expansion on those statements of the second and third chapter in a very wonderfully unfolded way to come to the ultimate perfection of subject matter. But I want to go forward, and a very important verse is there in the first canto, chapter 3, text 44. And this one you can probably find on the screen. You may have it already. You were very good, Sade, or whoever's doing it for you. You were so expert. At the moment, you haven't got it. First canto, chapter 3, text 44. There it comes. Fantastic. Let's read this. Bounce forward. I'm not going to read the Sanskrit. Let's read the English. Now, here we have Sutta Goswami is now speaking. He's just described the various avatars. He's described Krishna's supremacy over all. He's described the methodology of becoming freed from the effects of Kali Yuga, and so on and so forth. He's described what is real Dharma in the second and third chapter. This is right at the end of the third chapter. He says, O learned Brahmins, when Sukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with the same thing comes up here, rapt attention. Now, this is such an important word or two words. And thus, by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now, learning is not just repetition like a parrot or something. Learning means more than that. It means realizing. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. If we hear it attentively, with eagerness, sincerely, from a pure devotee, this is the methodology. Nirvitatarshi upagimanad bhavoshiti chotra manobiramat. Ko uttama shloka gunanavadat. We hear this subject matter of Krishna Katha. Those are Nirvita Trishna, those who are actually qualified, those who have no material motivation of any kind. They're simply transparent media. And we hear from them attentively. Then that message penetrates our consciousness, the coverings, whatever they're there. It penetrates into our heart and cleanses our consciousness within. And we begin to see things for what they are. That's called realization. Let's have a little look at the purport. I may or may not read the whole purport, but more or less you can get the idea. I may do. Let's hear it goes. One can certainly see directly the presence of Lord Krishna in the pages of the Bhagavatam if one has heard it from a self-realized great soul like Shukadeva Goswami. One can see Krishna. You want to see Krishna? Here, Krishna, Prabhupada says, you can see him in Bhagavatam. If one has heard it from a self-realized soul, that means real hearing, not just some partial hearing. Most of the cases probably what we have here. One has to learn the Bhagavatam from the representative of Shukadeva Goswami and no one else. If one at all wants to see Lord Krishna in the pages, that is the process, and there is no alternative. Pretty black and white. There is no alternative. Sorry to say, happy to say, there is no alternative. One has to hear the Bhagavatam from the representative of Sukadeva Goswami, and one has to hear attentively, sincerely, and eagerly. That doesn't mean half an hour a day finished. That's okay, that's a good start, but it means we should always be eager to hear it. Shukadeva Goswami presented the Bhagavatam as he heard it from his great father, and so also Suta Goswami is presenting the Bhagavatam as he heard it from Shukadeva Goswami. Simple hearing is not all. As you notice, I've jumped over a few lines there because I'm just getting the point which we're looking at here. Obviously, you won't understand it if you hear from a professional reciter whose consciousness is covered with material motivations, or someone who's simply an interpreter, but someone who's repeating what they've heard from their authority. But however, Prabhupada, simple hearing is not all. One must realize the text with proper attention. The word nivishta means that Suta Goswami drank. We don't normally use the word drank in terms of subject matter which is heard, but it is in terms of our inner consciousness. We drink it, it's a rasa, it's a taste. We lap it up within. We want to hear more and more and more. It's like, you get a fantastic drink or something. A drunkard, for instance, not that we hope you're not drunkards out there, but maybe we've been drunkards. A drunkard wants more and more and more. He's never satisfied practically. So the pure devotees of the Lord, they want to hear more and more and more. They want more. He drank the juice of the Bhagavatam through his ears. It became more and more delicious, more and more tasty. He wanted to hear liquid nectar through the ears. That is the real process of receiving the Bhagavatam. One should hear with rapt attention from the real person. If you don't know what I mean rapt, it means basically completely, there's nothing else. It's totally focused. And then he can at once realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every page. The secret of knowing the Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. I'll leave that to you to digest. But somehow or another, if someone hears with rapt attention from the right person at the very beginning, one can assuredly see Lord Sri Krishna in person in the pages of the Bhagavatam. We just basically summarize that point there, that unless one's lifestyle, unless we're coming to the mode of goodness, you can't really digest this subject. It may be a little interesting. It goes in one ear and out the other, as they say. But when one becomes purified in one's lifestyle, behavior, and so on and so forth, it becomes possible to actually hear with rapt attention, and it becomes possible for the heart to hold the topic. Otherwise, it's like it slides off, just like oil. You put something on oil, it slides off, ice. Heart has to become like sponge, lapping up this nectar. And then, what to say? So we go on to the second canto. First canto, many questions and answers are there about Pandavas, about given to Bhishma, and so on, how Parikshit received the age of Kali, and so on and so forth. Many questions are asked. But then we come to the very end, which is the trigger for the second canto. Parikshit Maharaj on the scene now, of course, been introduced by Suta Goswami. Is on the scene. Many ask the question, the all-important question of Parikshit Maharaj. The last few verses, and let's see which number this is. Number 38 is the last chapter of the first canto, chapter 19, 1, 19 38. I'm keeping you busy. Whoever's doing this is very heroic devotee. 1:19:38. Let's look at that. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I hope. Anyway, if it doesn't come, you have to listen carefully. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. This is Parikshit Maharaj addressing Shukadeva Goswami. I am therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons.
Excuse me, Maharaj, did you say 1:19:38?
1:19:38. 37.
Okay. All
You're
right.
right. It's 37.
Okay,
Well, you know
thank you.
why it says 38? It's because when you save, copy and paste from the Veda base, the next verse comes up.
Okay.
That's what happens. You got it. 37. So the mistake, thank God, is mine. It's great to realize we made a mistake. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I'm therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons, not just a few, everyone, perfection for everyone, and especially for one who is about to die. What should we do? What should we be thinking about? What is the purpose of life? These questions are pretty important. I've never met anyone, I've never spoken to anyone who's died. But I would imagine it'll happen to most of us, if not all of us. In fact, we see it tends to happen to everyone. Although we haven't seen it happen, but we kind of, logic tends to point to the fact that everyone's going to die. We're all about to die. Don't think I'll just wait to that moment. We may not know when that moment will come. It could be any moment. This life is like a drop of water on a lotus leaf. It can come off at any moment. We shouldn't waste our human life like this. It's essential to inquire like this. Parikshit Maharaj is doing this for us. He doesn't need to do it for himself. He's a self-realized soul. He's on the same level as Shukadeva Goswami, but he's taking a position of somebody who wants to, know what is it all about? What's the purpose of life? What should I be thinking about? I'm about to die. He knew he was about to die. We're not sure about that. Let's see what the purport says. I don't know if we read it all. Maybe. Yeah, we can read it all. Not very long. Unless one is perfectly anxious to inquire about the way of perfection, people don't know what perfection is in general. They think it means to live a good life with a lot of money and a comfortable house and nice wife and kids or husband or whatever it is. Whatever, go for holidays somewhere or another and live a bit peacefully and hope you don't get too much problems. But that's not the perfection of life at all. That's a complete waste of life. Just binding ourselves in karma, that's all. But we have to be anxious to inquire about the real way of perfection, the path of perfection, the real path. Unless one is eager for that, there's no necessity of approaching. You don't approach a spiritual master, in other words, for material achievement. It's a common thing. We approach the spiritual master for all kinds of material solutions, especially in this day and age. But that's not the real purpose. It's important also in you could say in life, in society. There's another kind of direction there in society which helps to answer that, but it's not the real business of the spiritual master to tell us, what to take at university, which degree to take. We're supposed to know everything, Gurudev. What degree should I take? Which college should I go to? What should I do now? I've passed my degree. Should I get married or not? All these questions. What do I do now? My marriage life's going upside down. Of course you have to inquire about these things, but that's not the real business of a spirit. We don't find that in the Bhagavatam so much at all. Parikshit Maharaj asking, should I be cremated or should I be buried? Or what type of tomb should I have? Should I leave my money to my wife or my friends? He's not asking those questions. He's really concerned for the welfare of everyone. A spiritual master is not a kind of decoration for a householder. Generally, a fashionable materialist engages a so-called spiritual master without any profit. That means they can give them money and they expect them to answer their material needs. Generally, a fashionable event. The pseudo-spiritual master flatters the so-called disciple, and thereby both the master and his ward go to hell without a doubt. Not a very nice destination. I don't think that's the perfection of life, to go to hell, although some people maybe, perhaps they even think like that, I don't know. Maharaj Parikshit is the right type of disciple because he puts forward questions vital to the interest of all men, particularly for the dying men. Dying. I mean, you can take that literally, but every man is dying from the moment they're born. The material world is Martyaloka, it's the world of death. The third is death. There's nothing else certain in this world, that's for sure. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the weather's going to be in 5 minutes' time, practically speaking. And we don't know when we're going to die, but it's certain that we will die. The question put forth is quite a sobering thought. We are going to die. That means you're going to have to quit this body sooner or later, forevermore. You're never going to come back in it again. You have to say goodbye to all the pictures around you, the people around you. You start a new chapter, a new life, without, whatever, even remembering all those persons and situations of the previous life. The question put forward by Maharaj Parikshit is the basic principle of the complete thesis of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says here, we talk about thesis. You go to university, you do a thesis for a PhD thesis. This Bhagavatam is like that. This is a PhD or something. Thesis. The whole Bhagavatam is a thesis on the absolute truth. So the questions of Parikshit Maharaj, not just this one, he asked many, is the basic principle of the complete thesis. Now let us see how intelligently the great master replies. Very nice. And then he says, next verse, I guess it's 38 now, if you say that's 37, he asks Sukadeva Goswami, please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. Quite a lot of subject matter, isn't it? But that were his questions toward more or less at the end of the first canto. And then the second canto begins. First canto ends with that question, and everyone's now in suspense. It's like, you sometimes get that when you read a book, it ends on a suspense note. What's the answer? What's he going to say? How's he going to react to that? Sometimes you get this in the movie, and the interval comes on. You've got to wait there, sucking your ice creams and popcorns, waiting for the next session. Da-da-da-dan. So what does Sukadeva Goswami say in the first verse of the second canto? He gets in quite quickly. We already heard his invocation, which was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. But then the first verse, 2:1:1, Sukadeva Goswami says, very similar to what Sutta Goswami said to the sages. He said, my dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists. These questions are very, very important to everyone. The question, as Prabhupada said itself, is so satisfying. So, what is the answer? Let's have a look at some of the answers he gives to the king's query. Let's go to text 5 and 6 of the first chapter of the second canto. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, my dear king, no, he doesn't. That's the first verse. Text 5. O descendant of King Bharat, means Parikshit Maharaj, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supersoul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. So there he pretty much answered what should we be hearing about, and so on and so forth. You should be hearing, and you should be glorifying and remembering the personality of Godhead. And that will save you from all misery. Then he goes, number 6, the highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of the life. And that's the goal, to remember Krishna. Not just at the end of life, although that's you could say, the purpose, but we have to practice that. It's not that you can just say, okay, I'll wait till I die, then I'll remember the personality of Godhead. It doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. We have to practice remembering Him now, right now, very carefully. Things related to Krishna, seeing His presence in every situation we find ourselves in, hearing about Him literally, associating with His devotees, worshipping His deity form, reading from His books, and so on and so forth. Somehow or another, the whole purpose of everything we do is to remember the personality of God, and that's the point of Bhagavatam, to become immersed in remembering the personality of God. And now, of course, there's a lot more to it, but that's the foundation of our actual spiritual life, in a sense, real spiritual life, is when we come to this platform of remembering the personality of Godhead, firmly fixed in our consciousness. So that's the goal of Bhagavatam. We'll move forward another 4 verses to number 10. Now, I hope I got the numbers right, and we're not one out. I think we're right. You can point out if I'm wrong, Rasik. That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. Again, the word sincere. We know what sincere means in the words of Rupa Goswami, Anyabhilashatah Shunyam Jnana Karmadhyamavatam. The pure devotee, or not the pure devotee, but the devotee is pure, but the devotee is freed from these other objectives, these other motivations. There's no alternate, there's no ulterior motive, there's no nothing, there's no duplicitousness. Your hearing is sincere, without blemish. Attentively hearing, submissively hearing. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. We can understand how essential it is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the right way, from the right source, regularly. Although Prabhupada says, we translate at least, that we should regularly hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, Nashta Preshu Badrushim Tim Bhagavata Sevaya. We should hear regularly, but it means always, basically speaking. We should always hear. That hearing, according to Rupa Goswami, should be Kinvara Nudinam, it should be, which means always, and very, very carefully hear. Very carefully. Hear every word. Try to digest every word. It's like, we shouldn't be like when we eat like a monkey or eat like something, eating a meal, they just gulp it down. You should eat, to digest it, you have to chew the food nicely. Bhagavatam is to be like that. It's like to be chewed. I think in the first canto, one of the early verses talks about this subject matter of how Srimad Bhagavatam should be chewed and digested nicely. Meaning we should really churn the words and hear them carefully and try to understand it, digest it nicely. Then our hearts will become cleansed and realizations will come. And we'll go on now. More questions by Parikshit Maharaj. This is in the second canto, 4th chapter, text 6. The second canto, a lot of questions are there, many by Parikshit Maharaj, a lot by Lord Brahma also, and a lot by Narada Muni also. He's inquiring from his father Brahma, and then Brahma, and then the discussion of Lord Brahma inquiring from the Lord how he can create the universe, so to speak. So there's questions and answers within questions and answers within question and answers. But here is, let's see, I don't even know if this is Parikshit Maharaj. Maybe. I beg to know, 246. 246. I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. To clear up all this speculation, doubts, whatever people have, how the universe comes about. And we have, people's lives are full of speculation. They're always hearing it, different scientific speculations, etc. And the next verse, kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sportive spirit of a player. Why the second canto is a cosmic manifestation. He wants to know how this cosmic manifestation, what is it, and how does it come about? So Sukadeva Goswami answers by, we said, reciting this conversation between Lord Brahma and Narada, and then Narada and Lord Krishna himself, and then Brahma and Krishna. And then, let's see, in the 5th chapter, the first verse, Parikshit says, please tell me that transcendental knowledge which specifically directs one to the truth of the individual soul and the super soul. In other words, now he wants to know not just knowledge, it's okay. In the practice, so this canto is really establishing Sambandha Gyan. We find this canto, third canto, then third canto goes on, especially the teachings of Lord Kapila to describe some Abhideya, not just Sambandha. But primarily this is Sambandha here, establishing various truths. So here's another truth. What is our relationship with the Supreme Lord? What is the energy? How does the Lord create? Who is the Lord? This is various Sambandha, foundational knowledge of Tattva, Sambandha Tattva, or Sambandha Gyan. Then in the 5th chapter, yes, we're on the 5th chapter, that was it. The 2nd verse, so now he's describing the, must be Lord Brahma. My dear father, I don't know which verse number it is, number 2 it says here. Please describe factually the symptoms of this manifest. Who's speaking to who here? Can you see what's speaking? What? I didn't have enough time. No, okay, thank you. Narada Muni is asking. Narada Muni is speaking, thank you. What is its background? Because Lord Brahma is the father of Narada. What is its background? How is it created? How is it conserved? And under whose control is all this being done? What is the source of your knowledge? So Narada is asking Lord Brahma, what's the source? This is text 4. What is the source of your knowledge? Under whose protection are you standing? Under whom are you working? What is your real position? Do you alone create all entities with material elements by your personal energy? He's not even sure at this point. Narada Muni is his father. Is he the greatest? Is he the source of everything? He's asking these questions. Where do you get your knowledge from? People ask that about God. You know, we say God is the origin of everything. Then who's the origin of God? They don't understand spiritual nature. That spiritual nature is eternal. It doesn't have an origin. But from the material perspective, you'll ask those questions, and that's fair enough. You know, without understanding the nature of absolute truth, or at least accepting its nature, then these things remain mysterious. So in text number 9, if you can jump forward if you want, there we find Lord Brahma says to Narada, my dear boy Narada, be merciful to all, including me. Again, it's such a nice way of, oh God, why are you asking me these questions? You know, I'm tired, I'm busy. Why are you always bothering me with these questions? What do you think I am? Google, what do they call it? Google guru or whatever? No, but he says, my dear boy Narada, being merciful to all, including me, you have asked all these questions and thus inspired me to see into the prowess of the almighty personality of Godhead. One unique thing about these, and then, in a little while, we'll see that King Parikshit, we won't go on to ask all the questions, but in one of the chapters coming up, 7 or 8, the whole chapter is based on the questions of King Parikshit. And then, Sukadeva Goswami, it's like he memorized all the questions, and he answers them one by one by one by one by one. When we ask questions, say, hold on, one at a time, please, one at a time. If they could ask a whole series of questions, and the speaker would answer them all, one by one by one. So then, let's see, at the end of the 7th chapter, and then we don't need to go there, but we're going now. Let's go into the 8th chapter, okay? Right at the beginning. I think this is called Questions by King Parikshit, isn't it? Chapter 8, is it? Questions of Parikshit. Yeah, Questions by King Parikshit, chapter 8. So very first verse, 1 and 2. Let's have a look at them. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll read those 4 questions of King Parikshit. These are relevant to today's verse directly. King Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, how did Narada Muni, whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is without material qualities, and before whom did he speak? So you see, he's fortunate because this is parampara. It doesn't change. I would say this is the quality of a guru. He doesn't change the words, or at least the teaching of his spiritual master. He may say it in different words, but it's the same philosophy, exactly the same truth, like that. So that's the next here becomes just as fortunate as the previous one. And in text 2, the king says, I wish to know narrations concerning the Lord, who possesses wonderful potencies, are certainly auspicious for living entities in all planets. He wants to know those narrations concerning the Lord, who possesses wonderful potencies and are certainly auspicious for all living beings in all planets. They're all auspicious. Topics concerning Krishna, Tabagatamritam, Taptajivanam, Kavabiritam, Kalmashapaham. They're the only remedy for those suffering in this material world. They're like nectar. We have to hear them. Hear these topics from the right source. In the association of devotees, this releases us from all the stress and everything else that you experience in this material world. Frees us all. And then in text 3, oh, greatly fortunate Shukadeva Goswami, please continue narrating Srimad Bhagavatam so that I can place my mind upon the Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna, and being freed completely from material qualities, thus relinquish this body. So now he's really just waiting for the real nectar, the real essence. Now I just want to hear it. Persons who hear, in text number 4, persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, manifested in their hearts within a short time. Well, there you go. If you take this seriously, regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and take the matter very seriously, Krishna will manifest in the heart. Short time, well, we don't know what type of length of time that will be. So Parikshit Maharaj inquired extensively in this chapter on how the Lord creates, annihilates, and so on and so forth. And in text 24, we're getting close now to the end. Text 24, Parikshit Maharaj asks, or states, O great sage, O representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you, and all that I may not have inquired from you. from the very beginning of my questions. In other words, whatever is relevant to us, whatever is beneficial to us, whatever is necessary for us to know, please answer me so that I can absorb it and apply it in my life. Since I'm a soul surrendering to you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. And of course, in the last chapter, chapter 9, the Lord speaks the seed verses, the Chaturshloki of the Bhagavatam. We're not going to go there today. We'll leave that to you to go to. Hare Krishna. Well, we just repeat the verse again, today's verse, the last verse of this canto. Beautiful verse. Suta Goswami explained, I shall now explain to you the very subjects explained by the great sage in answer to King Parikshit's inquirers. Please hear them attentively. So, whatever you are, wherever you are, however you are, try to get together and hear Bhagavatam attentively. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Here it is, if you haven't got it. So it's time now, we're finishing here. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Maharaj. What a very beautiful surgical dissection to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj, you did today. Awesome.
Just repeating, I mean, anyone could do that. You just have to read it and write things down, that's all.
No, but it's a very nice way of swimming through the Bhagavatam, getting nectar from here and there.
But it's based on Parikshit's questions, isn't it? So we just focused on mainly, not exclusively, but mostly on his questions, really.
Yeah.
This is what the verse, today's verse was predominantly discussing.
Yeah. So, dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you would like to ask or share, please you indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you will be asked to unmute to ask your question or to share your realizations.
You can ask a perfect question, but I'm not Sukadeva Goswami, Suta Goswami, Lord Brahma or Krishna or Srila Prabhupada or anyone who can answer your questions perfectly. But let's see what Krishna's got in store for us all and see his hand working. Because we don't know the answer, great. Then we'll try to find out what the answer is, won't we? That will turn us towards the Bhagavatam or inquiring from a devotee who's more realized. Or just taking more seriously to spiritual life and praying to Krishna for his mercy to give us guidance. But it'll turn us towards Krishna at least. Fire away. If you have any.
Maharaj, I have one question.
Who's this from?
It is from, I don't remember exactly what text, but from a couple of the verses you referenced to, wherein it is said that if one listens to Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention, and secondly, it says if one hears the Srimad Bhagavatam from a bona fide source, a pure devotee, one will experience Krishna within the heart in a very short time period. My question is, how do we contrast such statements with the statement that it takes a potent father and a fertile mother to reproduce? In other words, the speaker may be pure devotee, but the hearer may just be a nuisance, and therefore the expected results of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam may not be there. And if that is the case, could the speaker, who is a pure devotee, be blamed? This is my question, Maharaj.
You might blame him. Well, because the pure devotee of the Lord, generally speaking, even in the Bhagavad Gita, I mean, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, If you read right at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, you start to wonder, what does Krishna say? There is no one more dear to me than one who speaks this message to my devotees. He doesn't say to everyone. One cannot explain this Bhagavad Gita unless he's free from envy, engaged in devotional service, unless he's my devotee, right? He's indicating this is really to be spoken to devotees, not to the faithless. However, we do speak it in public, and we can rest assured that all of us today online, I can't rest assured, I can be probably at least myself, I can't speak for everyone exactly, but most likely some of us are not fertile. What does it mean to be fertile? We're somewhat fertile, but we're not ready yet. We're becoming fertile. It depends on the attitude. If you want stage of devotional service, you want to advance. So one of the practices of advancing is we hear the subject matter, even if it's not yet fructifying, it's not yet blossoming to the point of, seeing Krishna on the page of the Bhagavatam, or feeling his presence thoroughly in one's heart, or, feeling the ecstasy of relationship with Krishna. It may not be there, but there's sincerity. At least we're beginning. We're beginning there. It's the beginning of that growth. We're in the right place, doing the right thing with the right intention. If the intention is correct, and if we're trying to be submissive, it's the condition solves. So the tendency is the mind goes backwards, maybe doubts come up, maybe bad influences, we have an attraction for some material things. All these things are there. So there's a process, and we try sincerely to follow that process, and gradually we become fertile. The message will sink in. It takes time. It does take time. But we're not in this canto actually earlier on when they were Maharaj Katvanga, for instance, when he was about to die, he immediately transferred his 100% attention to Krishna. It didn't happen by chance. He was obviously a devotee, but he completely focused. That's not usually our case. We depend on mercy. We're mercy cases. The pure devotees are so merciful, though Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, devotees shouldn't bother themselves disturbing these people who are so absorbed in other things. But try to engage them in some kind of act of devotion so they become qualified. They're not ready to hear yet, more or less. But Prabhupada says that the devotees are more merciful. And Lord Chaitanya is the ocean of mercy. They brought the Sankirtan movement, the chanting and dancing. If you don't chant the Hare Krishna mantra in kirtan together, the heart, it's unlikely that our heart is ever going to become a very, open, pure recipient or fertile field for the message of Bhagavatam to reside there, and Krishna to be sitting there in our heart, happily in our purified heart, is unlikely. The Lord has brought the method without going through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's method, which is Sankirtan. The only way, it's not just a method, it is the only method for this age of Kali. Then the Bhagavatam, it's like going to holy places. Unless we're in Kirtan, you can't understand the holy places. It's a relative perception. We may repeat words, and that's about it. But to enter into the Dham, we have to be absorbed in Sankirtan, chanting the holy names with all of our hearts, going for it. Spread the holy name, then Krishna will reveal everything. This is the secret. Same thing with the Bhagavatam. When we hear it, we have our 1 hour class in the morning if you're lucky. Not usually that even. And maybe we read a little bit and try to wake up every now and again while we're reading a little bit of Bhagavatam during the day in some cases. But to go deeper into the Bhagavatam, it's got to be accompanied. It's got to be accompanied by other things. We heard that already in that same purport you quoted there about hearing with rapt attention. One has to be pure in mind, and to be pure in mind, one has to be pure in one's eating, sleeping, mating, and so on. In other words, a lifestyle has to go along with it to facilitate the awakening of fertility. Can't just expect it immediately. Just even if the speaker is fully qualified, then his speaking will be to prepare us to hear the Bhagavatam. That's why Prabhupada never went deep into the 10th canto, at least not in his preaching, because we were not ready. We're not ready. We're not fertile. So he gave instructions. We got to get Sambandha Gyan in place first. So all the instructions are you're not your body, you know, this, that, the other, all these basic things. Krishna is the absolute. Basic knowledge, basic knowledge, basic knowledge. You know, to remove the doubts from within our hearts, to remove our attachments to material things, to remove our false egos and so on and so forth. So there's a process of doing that. And as that process is applied, if we apply the process carefully, then gradually we become disgusted with this material endeavor and our own stupidity of seeing ourselves in the center, how we become so affected when somebody offends me. Somebody, you know, what these days is philosophy, wokeism. It's bogus. It's really nonsense. It's like the epitome of Maya, practically. I have been, you know, mistreated. I am the victim. Yeah, you're a victim, but you're number one victimizer also. We're all victimizers. We're engaged in indulging people in Maya. This is the greatest offense, to indulge others in the name of religiosity in Maya. And to say we're a victim or not victim, of course, but we're victims of our own. We're an architect of our own misfortune. It's our choice to be thinking I'm this body. Who is victimized who? It's just the mind and body, total material. And this mentality is like burning people, practically speaking, blocking any possibility of advancement in spiritual life. Of course, in society, structure is there to deal with these things. But if we're actually think our impression is, I've been victimized, it's me, I've got it, then we're not getting very far. One of the first ABCs to make, one of the first steps in spiritual life is to give up blaming anyone that exists for my problems. As long as that's there, we are not going to make much spiritual advancement. A little bit of mercy will be there, some yatas, kritis, and so on. But if we want to rise above the anarthas, then we've got to stop looking at it from that perspective. We have to see it from another perspective, completely different perspective. So the process is there. If the process is working, if we're applying it properly, then these things will be noted. The heart will start to change, and we'll stop this self-centered perspective of the world and start seeing Krishna's hand working through others, even though they may not see it like that. A devotee who's trying to advance will try to see how Krishna is working through all circumstances in life, in every single thing that may occur in our lives. So it's a gradual preparation. And as we progress, as the heart becomes softened by the process, especially by getting together and having roaring kirtans, giving your life and soul, go out on the streets, wherever you can go. You may not be able to do that where you are. But whatever it is, try to have kirtan as much as you can and chant the holy names. Today, where I am is a Nirjala Kadashi. So devotees, hopefully, we've been chanting more today. We're not here to fast. We're here to chant, by the way. If the fasting helps you to chant more, then it's worth it. If it doesn't, it's a waste of time. It should be, everything is measured by how much it evokes that attraction for the personality of God, who has appeared in this age as Namarupa in the form of his name, particularly in this form, particularly. So the more we associate with the Lord in that way, he's made that easy, the more the Bhagavatam will become attractive and clearer, and more Krishna's presence will be felt in our lives. So the process has to be there. So then there's also a lifestyle that goes along with that, both personal application as well as occupation, as well as environmental arrangements. In other words, we follow certain principles, avoidance of certain things. We have an occupation which is suitable to our conditioned nature as much as we can. And we try to make our house, our environment, as Krishna consciously favorable as we can. All this helps, although it's all external, to help us to come to the internal platform. But you know, if you've read the discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, Jnane Prayasa Mudapasta Manta Eva, how Ramananda Roy was describing these things to attain perfection in life, but ultimately it was only when one puts aside all that, or whatever it may be, and just hears in the association of pure devotees the message without any speculation. You abandon the speculation, you abandon bhakti and mukti, and you hear the subject matter of Krishna Katha in the association of devotees from the pure devotees of the Lord. And that is medicine. But all these other things have to be there too, otherwise we will not be able to hear it. Mind will be wandering, other people's minds will be wandering, and so on and so forth. It'll be very difficult to digest, and it won't have so much effect. Something is there. Everyone who comes into the association has some benefit, but it won't be very penetrating, won't be very deep. It won't be very effective. It will be effective, but not very effective. It'll take a long, long time, like that. So the more we apply the process in the association of us, particularly kirtan, then the quicker the process is likely to happen. But it does really depend upon our attitude, upon our intention, upon our objectives, whether we're still expecting mukti and bhukti or not, whether we're still expecting to be recognized, praised, so on and so forth, justified, and so on. All these are various, we can say, obstacles which are very prominent on the path of progressive devotional service. We have to kick them out. Otherwise, our advancement will be very difficult. Pure devotees try to kick them out, but sometimes we don't listen. Sometimes we even kick back. So then we're really stuffed. Then our chances of advancement are very minimal when we kick back. Arguing back, running away, who you think you are, and so on and so forth. We're not seeing Krishna's hand working. Even if it's not from someone we accept as a pure devotee, it's still Krishna's hand working. We've got to see it like that and understand how to see it like that. Seeing Krishna's hand working in all situations is Krishna conscious. And this is what, at least that level we should come to. Hare Krishna. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. I'm very, very much satisfied. And I believe the rest of the devotees are equally satisfied also. But Maharaj, there is one question from the chat room, and it's coming from Manohar Prabhu. It says, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
How to make vegetarian burgers. He's cooking in a restaurant in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna. It says, Maharaj, nowadays there is so many pretentious teachers around the world. And like what you said, it's not about memorizing, it's about living it. So how can we deal with these pretentious teachers and how we can approach them without offending them?
Without offending them, how do we deal with it? Well, you may not deal with it. It depends on your situation in life. I mean, generally speaking, a devotee, again, depending on your situation, you may have to work with such persons, or you may have socially obligated. You don't associate with them, and if you do, you don't absorb their whatever the message, whatever they're trying to put over. If you understand it's pretentious, you may show respect on the surface. You may interact on the surface, but you don't eat it. It's like, if give a simple example, it's not the same exactly, but say somebody gives you food. I used to stay in Malaysia for many, many years, and I would go on Sankirtan. Many Buddhist people are there, and they're very pious. And they always want to give you something, even if you don't ask for it. I'd always accept what they gave. And if they inquired, and they say, what can I give you? I'd say, well, we're vegetarian or something. Give some potatoes or carrots or something. I would accept what they gave you, more or less, in most cases, even though they may have been whatever, not quite sure what they were doing. Or say you go to a temple of a demigod or whatever. They give you something. You say, no, this is not, we only accept Krishna Prasadam. That doesn't do anyone any good. There's some offering is there. That person pretentious. So some benefit on them, something there, even if it's just being polite, but we don't eat it. We don't eat that food. We don't eat that untouchable food. We may throw it away, do what you like with it, but there's some gift, there's something in their hearts. They want to offer you something. Now, they may be offering the wrong thing, so we don't want to associate with that. We generally avoid that association. We generally avoid pretentious persons, even in the name of devotee, as much as we can, because they got an ulterior motive. They want money out of you. They want your support, they want your name, they want you to become their follower, they want to enjoy you, whatever it may be. That's not Lord Chaitanya's message. But if they're genuine, that's another thing. But if they're pretentious, they've got an ulterior motive involved there, then we generally don't want to associate with them. But if you're forced to associate, you minimize the association, you don't absorb what they're saying. You may not be in a position to change their hearts. You may not be. But you give them something, perhaps you can give them some prasadam, you can give them something or another at least, or try to engage them in some act of devotion of some kind. Maybe they can give a donation. Maybe if you start talking with them, they generally speak, doesn't get very far unless you're really quite, strong in Krishna conscious knowledge, philosophy, etc. It doesn't usually work very well. They're already in their own head space. So you have to be very, very careful. The most dangerous is pretentiousness within our own association, within your own family. Not mean physical family, devotional family. These are the difficult ones to deal with sometimes. And we may feel ourselves, well, I'm not qualified to judge that. It's a little easier outside to judge that, but it's a little more difficult within the direct association. We certainly don't want to go around judging devotees. We certainly don't want to go around, labeling devotees pretentious, non-pretentious, partially pretentious, very pretentious. That's the last thing we want to do. We want to see positivity there. Just try to make, one thing is, try to do your best not to be pretentious yourself. Try not to be pretentious. Try not to be, duplicitous. Try not. If you have this tendency within our own hearts, we're still looking for bhakti and mukti and so on and so forth. We're still hoping for praise, name, and fame. We're still trying to, influence others to, whatever, support me or whatever it may be. If these things are still there, are many, many more that we want to become God. That's like the biggest one you could say. Then, we should sincerely pray. Please, my Lord, please help me. I'm such a rascal. Please remove this from my heart, and beg devotees for their mercy to help remove this tendency from our hearts. And, you'll soon find out, if we're sincere like that, you'll understand from others who's pretentious and who's not, more and more and more. And you'll know how to associate better. We all make mistakes, and we feel it afterwards too. But Krishna knows that. So we should sincerely look at our own hearts and see if that nature is within me. Do I want respect? Do I want others to do what I want them to do? Or am I generally trying to serve? Or do I want to be served? What do I want? What is my motive? Do I really want to surrender, or do I just want the paraphernalia of the Lord, or do I want the Lord? Do I want what I want, or do I want what Krishna wants? These questions we can ask. If we want what I want, we're definitely still in that category of maybe complete ignorance, we're neophytes, but it's still pretentious, and it's still duplicitous, and it's still a desire for mukti and bhakti. So who are we to judge others? Who are we? We have to make some judgment, but if we're still covered in false perception of self, we'll think that a pretentious person is our friend sometimes, because we're still like that. So we have to clear our own hearts and take guidance, personal guidance in this regard. Personal guidance from those around us. If we're following an authority, we hope that the authority has our spiritual well-being in mind, and take some guidance therein as to what to do to us. So what to read. It's not just persons associating, it's what to read also. What is relevant to one may not be relevant to another. We've got to be careful. We've got to read that which is relevant to our present situation, understanding what the goal behind it is, no doubt, but not try to think that we're already qualified to enter into subject matter beyond our adhikar or our eligibility. So just a little bit of caution there, but prayer, looking within our own hearts, following the process given by Srila Prabhupada, carefully as we can, praying for protection. Being protected is not a physical act, it's being protected from being, falling into these various traps of the grips of other persons who are pretentious, bad association. It can happen even in the association of a pure devotee. Many of Srila Prabhupada's personal servants fell into the trap for various reasons of falling into bad association. During his presence, during being with him personally, even during Lord Chaitanya's time, his own personal servant, Krishnadas, fell into the trap of the Bhattaharas, who became attracted by their association. They enticed him. So it's very dangerous. These are warnings to all of us. We've got to be very careful. So chant very carefully as much as you can and realize that we are fallible. We are not on the platform of infallibility. We are very, we've got to be very careful, very dangerous. Keep as much as we can protected by hearing and chanting from the right source, attending whatever we can of the sadhana program, and careful with your association as much as possible. And be careful of your environment also in your activities. Try to avoid eating food which is, questionable. Why do you want to eat chocolate, for instance? What's the purpose of eating chocolate? There's only one purpose. There is only one purpose, to satisfy your senses. There is no other purpose whatsoever other than that. It may be nice, it may not be bad, it may not be illegal, it may not be a sin, but its only purpose is to satisfy our senses, that's all. Or to drink, maybe there's some psychophysical conditioning involved with drinking coffee or tea or something because you're addicted, maybe the same with chocolate, but ultimately it's only to satisfy our senses. If you don't need to do it, don't do it. Just take prasadam. You can't offer these things to Krishna. Just take prasadam. You can't offer an electronic cigarette to Krishna. You can't offer the television programs you're watching to Krishna. Hey, Krishna, come and have a look at this. You can't do it. You can say like that, but what is Krishna interested in? It's an illusion, sense gratification. Try as best you can to do that which will be pleasing to Krishna. Keep that in your mind. And eat food which is offered. Don't eat boga. Don't just go into the store and just see, oh, it's a vegetarian pizza. I can offer it. Shri Vishnu, thanks Krishna, yum, yummy, 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 yummy. It doesn't help you to advance in Krishna consciousness if you really are serious. Maybe in the beginning these things are a step forward, but we shouldn't stay on, the baby step only. We should try to move forward in Krishna consciousness. Become a little more serious. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, it's getting super duper late. There's another question from Shamala. Okay, I'll just.
Yes, Maharaj, there is another question from Shamala Devidasi. As Maharaj was speaking, I realized how extremely beautiful subject the Srimad Bhagavatam is. It is the number one thing this world needs. So how is it that not everyone is dying to come in contact with it? Why are we a minority?
Well, you are in this world, you could say, but don't worry. You're not a minority in the absolute sense. We are, after all, if you go to a prison, the material world is a kind of a prison. It's described like that. Errant souls are here who've turned a face away from Krishna. So, and we're kind of, we could go on, and this is like a Maha subject matter, isn't it? But you go into a prison, you'll find that most of the prisoners are not very pious by material relative terminology. That's why they're there. You'll find a few who are really repenting, but not many. Many are planning to get out and what they're going to do when they get out so they don't get caught again. And they're already arranging various associations within the prison to continue with their behavior, even though they're given a chance. So in an active instruction, Rupa Goswami explains how a person with jaundice, let's take, for instance, perhaps some of you like ice cream. Perhaps some of you do. We don't deny that we like these things, whether we eat them or not, it's another thing. We try to offer it to Krishna, but at least you can offer it as long as it's, whatever it is. So say you like ice cream. When you've got jaundice, ice cream is not at all attractive. It's horrible. It tastes horrible. I've had jaundice, I know. It tastes terrible. So, but is it terrible? Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we do food for life. We take, nice sodom to some areas, and some alcoholics, it's like, you give them hallow, yeah, they spit it out. They have horrible taste. They can't handle it, dreadful. They like the taste of meat and wine. Their condition. So one who's jaundiced, the taste of sugar is sugar candy. Sugar is bitter. It's bitter. They don't want it. They spit it out because they're diseased. People are in a diseased condition of consciousness completely. Going to the mode of nature, they'll be attracted to different things, but they're spiritually speaking, everyone in the world is diseased, everybody. But the process is gradually that the taste will come. But in the beginning, it's not going to be there. Another example Prabhupada gives is that our heart is also covered like that. He says in the beginning, the taste for Krishna consciousness is not going to be there because our hearts are covered by avidya or ignorance. We're more interested in subject matter in the mode of ignorance than we are in transcendental subjects. Yeah. Even materially speaking, some people, you show somebody some people are not attracted to a beautiful girl. They're attracted to some other girl who isn't necessarily so beautiful. Or a beautiful place. I mean, we hear Bhagavatam that the crows are not attracted to beautiful places. They like to go to garbage dumps. They don't like to hear it. People, their consciousness is like that. They're in the mode of ignorance and passion. They like to hear things about passion and ignorance. They don't want to hear transcendental. It doesn't mean anything to them. It's meaningless. The words are like, they don't register. It's like a foreign language, because they're so accustomed to their mundane literature or their mundane subject matters. Understand, but it takes time. Another example Prabhupada gives is that if you're selling diamonds, how many customers you're going to have? You've got one shop selling plastic replicas, €1 each or something, and another shop selling diamonds, €1,000,000 each. How many customers you're going to have? How many are going to take the diamond? Not many. Not many can afford it. They may like it or may not like it, but they're not ready for it. They can't afford it. People are not ready. So that's why the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya is to prepare them and to prepare us too, so that we can actually taste the sweet nectar of Krishna Katha, topics concerning Krishna. And we associate with pure devotees, it speeds up, it accelerates the process. And we saw persons coming in Prabhupada's association on the spot, like that. I'm not going to eat meat. I'm not going to take intoxicants. I'm not going to drink liquor anymore. I'm not going to engage in any of these things. I'm going to start chanting Hare Krishna now, on the spot, literally. But it doesn't always happen like that. Maybe you can say they're ready. But the effect of a powerful association of a pure devotee can have quick, just like Narada Muni or Magari or something kind of, or Haridas Thakur on the prostitute, can have very quick effect within moments or days. Transformation to take place. They give up everything negative, they surrender, and they're ready to hear Krishna Katha. But it takes time. Most people are not ready, but therefore what do? We just chant Hare Krishna. We don't explain what it's about. We just shower the world with the Sankirtan movement and prasadam, whatever else we can do. Get the books out there, so at least they're there. They're time bombs. One time Prabhupada said they will act eventually, and somebody will be along there. Something makes some sense to somebody. It often sits in our houses for 20, 30 years before they're ready. Oftentimes. Takes time. They say that a very first-class nut takes time to mature, whereas lesser quality nuts mature quickly. So you want the real thing, it takes some time. You want some cheap imitation, you can get it easily. That's why people are so attracted to the, Bhagavat Saptahas of some professional reciter or something. Then you ask them afterwards, what change of heart has taken place? Nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing's taken place. They're the same. They just go back to their same lifestyle. There's no change. When we actually hear from a pure, the change of heart has to take place. When the change of heart begins to take place, then one can begin to really hear Bhagavatam. And not many people are ready for that. Not many. The heart has to change. We have to open up our hearts. I would like to finish there if you don't mind.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Sahadeva
much.
Prabhu.
Thank you so
All
much,
those to
Maharaj.
Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much,
I
Maharaj.
wish everyone all the best on your journey, and don't take heart to just do your best. We will make mistakes. We will still have our whatever it is, our pride and whatever else is, driving us still. But just keep chanting and try not to offend devotees. And try to be humble as you can. And Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Dear devotees, we will humbly request you all to try to go back on YouTube at a later time and try to replay this recording today, because it is so important. There's so much wisdom, so much advice for our spiritual sadhana that I think if we continue hearing and try to put them into our devotional life, we're going to benefit tremendously. So my humble request is that you all go to Hare Krishna Africa YouTube page and listen to today's class with rapt attention, like it was mentioned. With that being said, we're also going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to His Holiness Janandana Goswami Maharaj for his love, wisdom, and time shared with us today. Please. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama Rama Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare
Mancha kalpa tarudhyascha kripa
Saruvyasta
sindhudhyadivata
Sindhudevacha
Pattanam
Pattanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo
Vaishnavibhyo
Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Namaha.
There's
All
still time for 3 lakhs of names. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Chakra. Thank you, Hare Chakra.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Africa.
Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you, Shiv Varaha Prabhu, and all the devotees,
Krishna.
Loka Devi, and all the other devotees from around the world. And of course, especially to Sahadeva. I don't know where Gal. Where's Gal? Where are you, Gal?
right,
Gal? I don't know where he is.
Hare Krishna.
Sounds like a weapon.
Salika, would you do the roundup? Salika Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hassan.
All glories to His
Gal?
Holiness Goswami
Where's Gal?
Maharaj.
Jai.
Where?
Hare Krishna.
Where is he? Where's Gal?
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Where's Hassan? Where's Hassan?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada, huh?
Hare Krishna.
Hassan. Yeah. Where is he? Where are you? Which country?
She really insulted me.
You mean myself, Maharaj?
Are you Hassan?
Oh no, Dr. Hassan, can you unmute, please?
Hey, where's
Krishna
Hassan?
Maharaj.
Hey, Bo, where are
Yes.
you, sunshine?
I'm here. I was in Spain, but right now I'm here in West Virginia, very close to New Vrindavan.
Oh, you're in America. All right. Wow.
Yes, Maharaj.
Wow. Good to see you. And
Good to see you too, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
where's